right, good morning, everybody. This is our first day of week 4. We're going to be working on Module 1, Lesson 4, Federalism today. Okay, so what is it and how does federal versus state rights work? Who has what power? Who shares the power? What is federal power and what is state power? So that's kind of the discussion that we're going to start today. We'll continue working on in our second day of the week, okay, a block schedule. So it's Wednesday if it's 1, 3, 5, 7, and then Tuesday if it's 2, 4, 6, 8, right? The other thing we're going to be doing this week is we have the Module 1 assessment. So we're finishing basically our first unit, okay? So we're doing the last lesson this week, and then instead of taking a smaller quiz just over federalism, it'll be more like a test this week. So it's a bigger quiz, okay, which is covering the last 4 lessons, all right? So it'll be a bigger assessment this week. So that's part of the reason that the assignment's a little bit shorter, because you are going to want to put in a little bit more effort prepping for the quiz because it's worth more points. We'll go over that. Don't worry, I have a big review sheet for you. Okay, so it's like, I think it's 4 or 5 pages where usually it's like 2. So I've got a lot more information on it. And then we'll do a quick Kahoots game on tomorrow or Thursday. So whichever day you meet with me, we'll do a Kahoots game. I pulled some questions from the quiz. All right. So it's like 10 questions, but still ones I pulled directly from the test bank. So we'll do a little bit more review than we usually do. All right, let's go ahead and jump over into Canvas. Hope everybody had a great weekend. Hope things are going well. All right. And stuff. So as you're getting Canvas open, all right, I'm just going to go to the announcements real quick and just remind you, make sure that you're going to the announcements every Monday and Friday. I can't emphasize this enough, okay? Almost every time a small group, somebody pops in and they're like, what are we doing? And I'm like, did you check out the announcement? Did you look at this week's, live session page? Because I really do post a full schedule for you, okay? Now, it doesn't mean you can't come to small group and ask me questions, absolutely. But when you just kind of come and you're like, what are we doing? You know what I mean? And stuff. I lay that out for you in detail, and I send you reminds, right? Reminds or emails every week. So just check that Monday, Friday announcement and just make sure, go through and make sure that you're on track. So making sure you get your attendance done, right? If you're a scholar, that scholar attendance needs to be done on Mondays by noon to get it for the entire week. If you are not a scholar, please do not fill out scholar attendance. Only scholars fill out scholar attendance. Yesterday, what was due was our last week's material. So remember, every Tuesday is kind of like our first day of the week, all right, and stuff, and then things are due on Monday. The exception is going to be this week, though, because there is no school this coming Monday. What is this coming Monday? Can anybody put in the chat or unmute? Why do we have next Monday off? It's always the first Monday of September. Anybody? Anybody? What day is the first? That's okay. That's okay, Camille. Why do we have Monday off this coming week? Yes, Camilla, what is Monday? Can you unmute or you can put it in the chat, whatever you want.
Is it a small group?
Well, normally it is. Normally it is, but we actually have no school at all on Monday. Does anybody remember what holiday we have first Monday of September? Very good. Yes. Alexi Shane, yes. So it is Labor Day, right? So we have Memorial Day every May, and it's always the last Monday of May. And then we have Labor Day every September. So there's no school this coming Monday. No, that's okay. That's okay. That's why we're reviewing it. So normally your assignments are due on Mondays, right? But because it's a holiday, Monday's a holiday, okay? It's a day off. The assignments for this week will be due on Friday. Okay, so the assignments for this week will be due on Friday. But like I said, we're going to be able to get the notebook done in class today and tomorrow, today and either Tuesday or Wednesday, whenever I meet with you. And then we'll review for your quiz. So all you'll really need to do outside of the notebook is you'll need to take the quiz, which actually it's more of a test, I guess, because it's over the entire module. Okay, so any questions? So this week's due dates are going to be Friday because there's no school Monday. So normally they're on Monday, but anytime we don't have school on Monday, then it moves to the Friday of that week. Okay, so give me a thumbs up if you're following me. Dre, do you have a question?
Oh yeah, I was just gonna tell you that I was doing a module assessment for my personal fitness and well-being class, and it had honor lock, on it. I don't know if that was making it go slower, but
Okay,
it had.
So you can't take a quiz in honor lock and be in another class. So that's why it was acting up.
Okay, well I just finished it.
Okay, yeah. So just in the future, like, yeah, maybe wait and take it you know, when you have a break or a beginning of the day or end of the day, you know, when you're jumping from class to class. Yeah, it's not supposed to let you do that. Okay. All right. So this Friday, yes, your assignments are going to be due because Monday we don't have school, but normally Monday is the due date. Okay. So this past Monday, yesterday, what was due was Module 1, Lesson 3. So that's Articles of Confederation notebook, which we did 1 through 7, and then I gave you time to do 8 and 9, right? And then you had to take the quiz. A couple things closed yesterday, right? The Module 1, Lesson 1, the notebook, the Declaration of Independence assignment, and the first quiz all closed yesterday. Okay. They were open 2 weeks, not just 1 week, 2 weeks. So they were doubled the time. So even if you get extended time, I did extra time. I'm trying to get everybody going. I know it's an adjustment kind of getting back into school, but those are closed. So at this point, if you are behind, Module 1, Lesson 1 notebook and quiz, and Module 2 notebook and quiz are still open. Okay, so they're past due at this point, but you'd want to get those in. I also sent attendance and I sent failing notices on Friday. Okay, so if you got those, you need to be coming to class, but you need to be getting your work in. All right, so just please make sure that you're staying on top of that. Remember, if you miss class, if you have questions, okay, you can always come to small group, but you can also go to that lesson and recording. Even like what I'm doing right now is recorded. So it'll show you what we're doing. So yesterday, what was due, I always link the review sheet there, okay? What we're doing today, we're gonna go over the Federalism notebook, okay? What we'll do, so we're gonna meet on Thursday, so we'll finish up the notebook. Here is the review sheet, which this assessment covers the first 4 lessons, and we'll do a Kahoots game. And then it shows you again that it's due this Friday because there's no school on Monday. All right, so anytime, most of the time our due dates will be Monday, but when there is no school on a Monday, then it will revert to the Friday of the week. All right, and then you find those playbacks. Any questions on anything before we get started on the actual lesson? Close grades, what that means is that assignments, right? Module 1, Lesson 1 was due 2 weeks ago, or 2 weeks and a day ago, okay? The late window is usually a week. I left it open for 2 weeks, so I gave you guys even an additional week. And then after that, it closes for good. Yes, so if you did not turn in Module 1, Lesson 1, either notebook, assignment, or quiz, now they cannot be turned in because well, no, it's actually more generous than, because it's supposed to be 1 week and I gave you guys 2 weeks, right? So, you know, and we do most of the assignments in class. So as long as you're coming to class and you're doing your work and I give you review sheets, most of what you're doing on your own time, Fridays and Mondays, is a 10-question quiz. So unless you're not following me in class and stuff like that, staying with the pace shouldn't be that bad. It should be pretty manageable, okay? So as that goes, so that means next Monday, Module 1, Lesson 2 will be closing because that was due 2 weeks ago. So does that make sense? Okay, so give me a thumbs up if we're following me, okay? Yes, so again, as long as you're staying with class and you're getting stuff done, you should be fine, okay? That's just to give you that window if you run a little bit behind. But again, we do a lot of stuff together, all right? So you're not having to do that much really on Fridays and Mondays in your independent study time, okay? All right, let's get started then, all right? So we can stay on track for today. So we're gonna go to modules, okay? And we're gonna go to Module 1, Lesson 4. So when you take the assessment this week, it's gonna be over Module 1, Lesson 1, Module 1, Lesson 2, Module 1, Lesson 3, and Module 1, Lesson 4. And there's where the assessment is, okay? So we're gonna go up here to overview. And we're gonna be looking at federalism, okay? So in this lesson, we are trying to look at the compelling question, who has the power? So we've rewritten this Constitution, right? We talked about the Declaration of Independence and then how the Articles of Confederation failed. It gave too much power to the states. And then the philosophies of the Federalists, anti-Federalists that went into writing the Constitution that we have now. So now we're trying to clarify in this, it's a shorter lesson, but in this lesson, who has the power? You know, analyze how much power goes to the local, to state, to tribal governments, to the federal government. Okay, who has the actual power? All right, so we're gonna go to next and we're gonna open up our notebook. All right, so once you're there, you're gonna click on the access to the notebook. So go ahead and open it up. We're gonna make a copy. Okay, once you have it open, remember there's the couple things that we do. We're gonna save it to our Google Drive. So you should have a government folder. and you're going to save it there. Now, if you don't have a government folder, okay, then you can add a government folder. So you do new folder and you can put in government, check mark, and then move it there. But if you have a government folder, then select your government folder and move it there. That way you can find all your government assignments. Once you've saved it to your government folder, then you're going to make it shareable. Okay, so remember, that's anyone with the link. So you want to click on anyone with the link. And that way when you submit it, I'm able to open it. Oh, the Module 1 assessment? Is that what you were talking about, Camilla? Okay, yeah, it's multiple choice. It's all multiple choice. Just like the quizzes, it's just more questions. I believe it's here. While you guys get this open, let me look and see how many questions it is. It is, let's see how many questions it is. I want to say it's 30, but let me double check that because I could be wrong. It's been a minute since I looked. Assessment. Okay. 30 points. Let me verify. Yep, it's 30 questions. Okay. So it's 30 questions. Yeah. So it's a little bit longer than, obviously your quizzes are usually not that long. But like I said, it's a unit assessment, right? So it's over the entire module, which is like a unit for us. So it's over 4 lessons instead of 1. So it is going to be worth more. But you get 2 attempts and it keeps the highest of the 2. And you get to use notes. Okay. So that's why tomorrow we'll spend a little bit more time prepping. I have a longer review sheet and we'll do the Kahoots game, okay, to help you out. All right. Okay. So give me a thumbs up. You're ready to go. You have your notebook open. Canvas is open. And we're just going to do the first 2 parts today, and then we'll do the last 3 questions. So if you look at the notebook, you can see it's a little bit shorter and a little bit different than normal. Okay. It's got the compelling question. It's going to have us do a visual graphic. And then there's some other questions, okay? But it's a lot shorter. There's no primary source. It's a lot shorter and a little bit different than our normal notebook, but we'll still go through it together, okay? All right, so I'm going to go back over into Canvas. Let me get back to our module page. Sorry, because I was looking at how long the quiz was. So Module 1, Lesson 4. So we were on the notebook page. Okay, we opened that up. So we're going to go to Next. Okay, so we're going to start with our compelling question. So the whole goal of studying federalism is, okay, who has the power? And the reality is some will be the federal government, some will be states government, some will be local, okay? So who has the power? So this lesson, we're working to kind of learn how does the Constitution divide up that power, all right? So we're going to Control C, and we're going to go put that in number 1 in our notebook, okay? And then I'll also put it in the chat for you. Oh, nope, that's the wrong, it didn't Control C. Okay, just a second. Let me try that again. That is not the compelling question. There's the compelling question. Who has the power? That was from junior studies. We were doing some documents and stuff like that. Sorry, it didn't, if for some reason it didn't copy and paste it the first time. Sorry. So who has the power? Copy and paste that. So you can pull it off the Canvas page or you can pull it from the chat. So it's right there on the Canvas page, or you can pull it from the chat. All right. And you're just going to copy and paste it, and you're going to put it right there in number 1. All right. We're going to go to Next. Federal versus state power. So the first question helps us to establish a foundational understanding of federalism, or the sharing of power between the national, which is the federal government, and state governments. This task asks you to use the United States and New York Constitution. So they're using New York as an example of a state, okay? And doing a Venn diagram, illustrate the constitutionally delegated, reserved, and concurrent powers, okay, between state. So delegated, all right, are going to be only for federal. Concurrent means both. Reserved means for the states, okay? So delegated are going to be on the federal. Concurrent are going to be that both can do federal and state. And then reserved means that the state takes care of it. Because yes, there are some things that the federal government does. There are some things that both the federal and the states can do, like collecting taxes. And there's some things that the reserve. So we're going to fill that out. But really quick, I want to show you a quick video that just kind of breaks down the difference between federal and state. Couple of things just really quick. Make sure that if you are not turning things in, that you know that it's getting submitted as 0 once the due date goes, okay? And that means it's a 0. So it goes in as missing, which means 0. So if your grade has dropped or it's really low, make sure you're getting in those assignments, because remember, the minimum 50% is gone, okay? If you're doubting something, if you have a question on something, you can always message me in Canvas or send me an email. I did want to remind you the Senior Sunrise is coming up here in 2 weeks on the 8th. Okay, and there's an NVLA announcement in your announcements about it. You have to RSVP to go if you're going to. And then open house is tonight, okay, from 5:30. And there's an announcement, starts at 5:30, classes start at 6, okay? And they're just 10-minute blocks where parent or guardian can come and just kind of get a gist of what the class is about, ask a couple questions. It does go really quick, especially if you're new to NVLA. Sometimes it's nice just to get a better feel of what the student is going through, all right? And then again, reminder that there's no school on Monday. All right. Okay. So what is federalism? So who has the power? That's our first one. And then we're going to watch a quick video on states versus federal powers. And this one's just kind of funny. All right.
The governmental powers with Federal Powers Man, endowed with the powers of national government, who can coin money, regulate foreign and interstate commerce, declare a war, make peace, provide for the common defense, and maintain armed services, and pass naturalization and immigration laws. And States' Rights Man, with powers reserved expressly for the states, who can provide education for all his young fans, conduct elections, and provide for local governments. With Concurrent Powers Woman, representing the shared powers of both Federal Powers Man and States' Rights Man, having the power to collect taxes, make and enforce the law, and maintain the courts. The governmental powers, creating a balanced sense of democracy and order in a world otherwise full of anarchy and chaos.
Okay, I know, a little silly, but I thought it was cute. Like, it was just a minute and stuff. And so it just kind of does, yeah, there are certain, like a superhero, there's certain things specifically that the federal government does. And there's certain things specifically that the states take care of. And then there is that overlap. Okay, so let's go over to your notebook. Okay, and they already have the Venn diagram there for you. Okay, and so you're going to kind of have to get creative with your typing. All right. Or if it's easier for you, you could just create 3 lists. So if you wanted to, all right, if you were really, if you're struggling with the Venn diagram, okay, the other option you could do is you could just do, let's see, what were the 3 again? Delegated, concurrent, reserved. You could do delegated, concurrent, reserved, and then create a list under each one if you wanted to. Okay, so if that was easier for you, or if you want to fill in the Venn diagram, it's up to you. Okay, so whichever one is easier for you. Okay, so under delegated powers, so you can type this in, make a list. Okay, so these are the things specifically that the federal government does solely. So the states don't have the right to do. These are federally ordained to the national government, the federal government. Establishing a postal service, okay? So this is where we have United States Postal Service, right? Okay, that delivers the mail. Now, we do have some privatization of it, but for a long time, it was only the federal government that was delivering. And we wanted to make sure that there was a consistency. Part of the reason that they gave this to the federal government is to make sure that states weren't holding mail hostage, that it was a federal, to make sure all states had the rights and that no one was holding on to the mail. Okay, so I'm not going to be copying and pasting this in, so you do need to type these out. Okay, here, I can blow up my page a little bit if that will help. Let me blow up my page a little bit. Okay, there we go. Does that help a little bit? How are we doing? Give me a thumbs up if we're doing okay. You with me? Okay, So you can do it within the Venn diagram, or you can create that list if you want to. Okay, so you could do like delegated, and as I go through them, then you could just add them. Okay, it's up to you. And then concurrent, as long as I see some separation, it's not just one big blob. Okay. Okay. It is up to the federal government to create currency. Okay, a coin system. It is up to the federal government to maintain the military. So that's where the president is the head of the military, their commander in chief. It is also the federal government's job to declare war. Okay, so the states don't declare war. All right, it is the federal government. The states can weigh in on how they feel about different topics, but it is the federal government's job to declare war. To set standard weights and measures. So this is important. This is to create consistency across states and cities when we're measuring. So we use the foot system, right? We use foot, feet and inches. A lot of the world, Europe, they use the metric system, right? So you create that standard of how are we going to communicate about how long that road is going to be, how we measure a mile, what a mile is, so that when you're going, that we are fluid with that talk. Also with math, think about it. We want to make sure we're all agreeing that, if it's not letting you, then just do the list. Okay. If you're having a hard time with it, then just do the list. Okay. Like I did, you could just type it and then just do the list. Okay. That's probably going to be the easiest. Okay. So just turn it into 3 different lists. Just make sure it's divided up. Does that make sense? Okay. Regulate trade. So make sure that what's coming into the country, what's going out of the country, that we're trading fairly with other countries, that we're getting quality products, that when we're shipping out things that we're following, again, the same standards. So the states have to fall within federal regulation to make sure we're all on the same page. Copyright and patent. So this has to do with like written work or technology or, anything like that. And then finally, conducting diplomacy. So this goes along with maintaining the military and declaring war. Conducting diplomacy. We don't want Virginia going and making some treaty with Spain, but then the other 49 states won't do it. We all need to be unified when we're talking to outside countries. So within, we might not agree on certain things, but when we are going to make agreements with other countries, it needs to be as one unit, not 1 or 2 states. Okay, so give me a thumbs up once you have the delegated powers listed. And then we'll go over the concurrent. Is it large enough? Can you see it okay? So like I said, if you're having a hard time with the Venn diagram, then you can just, you can do a list like this, as long as it's divided up, okay? So delegated, list, concurrent, do the tabs and then write for each one, just as long as it's broken up so it's organized. It's not just one big blob. Otherwise, I will dock you, okay? I feel like that's a reasonable request. Okay, let's go over concurrent. So this means shared by state and federal. This means both entities, the federal government and the state government, are able to do this. Okay, collecting taxes. That's a big one. Okay, collecting taxes. So we have federal tax. Remember we talked about that comes out of our paycheck, and we also have state tax. So that could be possibly like paying sales tax, property taxes. Some states like Oregon have income tax. California has both. We've talked a little bit about that. Enforcing laws. So there are federal and there are state laws. So there is federal law enforcement and there are state law enforcement. So federal law enforcement is going to do bigger organized crimes, sometimes, money laundering, sex crimes, murder. I mean, a lot of the big stuff. Okay. So a lot of things that happen locally can also fit into federal. It just depends on who you commit the crime against. Like if I commit a crime against a bank, it might be federal, right? Depending if I wired money illegally from Nevada to New York or something like that, it becomes federal because I'm going outside of the state jurisdiction. So enforcing laws, there's local law enforcement within states, city law enforcement, and then there's federal law enforcement. So like an example of federal law enforcement would be like FBI or CIA. Provide for the welfare of the citizens. So this is another one. This one's kind of general. And what we mean by this is that like there are federal programs like Medicare, Medicaid for like health benefits, let's say, but also like on the state level, you can get assistance. Let's say maybe housing vouchers or food stamps, things like that, that help you, so both they might have different programs, but federal and state level have programs to help provide for citizens. Okay, I'll give you a couple minutes or a minute or two. Give me a thumbs up once you have your concurrent list. And again, if it's easier, you are welcome to list them like this. Okay, so you can just list them. You can write it and then just list it if that's easier. Let me know if I'm going too fast. I'll give like another 30 seconds and then we're just going to do the reserved powers and then we'll wrap up for today. And then when we meet on, for this class will be Thursday, so whichever class it is, and stuff, then we'll continue. We'll do 3, 4, and 5, and then we'll review for the larger assessment since it's over all of Unit 1 or Module 1, which is a unit. Okay, how are we doing? Give me hand clap if you're with me. We got this. Maybe a thinking face if you're like, I didn't think I was gonna have to type so much. What the heck? It's good to type every now and then. It keeps you engaged. All right, we're still going over it. I'm still helping you with the responses, right? Okay, and then last but not least, reserve power. So these are state level, okay? So establishing local government. So every state is allowed to come up with their own constitution as long as it doesn't contradict the federal, but they can set up their own local government. So state level, county, city, they set up the school. So federally, federal funds go to fund the schools, but it is not up to the federal government to set up the school. So it is up to the state and local governments to set up elementary schools, middle schools, high schools, as the population expands, that they are building the needed schools, zoning, getting curriculum, getting it approved, setting policy. That is all standardized testing. That's all set by the state. And again, you go from one state to the other. There's a lot of consistencies in education because the federal government has contingencies. They'll say, we're not going to give you money unless you're in school at least 180 days. You provide these subjects. So they do put guidelines that states have to follow, but then the curriculum or the book or something like that, or maybe the order in which they teach it. I know some schools back east, they do government junior year or sophomore year, and then they do U.S. history senior year. So sometimes they just switch around the years. So you take the same classes, but maybe in a different order. So it's up to the state governments to actually set up the schools and make sure they are meeting the federal. So the federal government puts out like, here's the criteria in order to get your paycheck, which everybody wants. They all want money from the government. And then the states are responsible to set that up. Conduct elections. So both state and federal. So the federal elections are still run by the state. So again, generally speaking, they're done in the same way, but some states might require ID, some don't. Some do mail-in ballots, some don't. So the way that they set up their elections, every state has some autonomy. So they have to hold elections. So that's the general requirement. But the laws or the ways in which they do it, every state has some autonomy. So you'll hear one state do it a certain way, another state do it another way. Maybe they criticize each other. And the reality is they're allowed to be different. They are allowed to have autonomy because that's part of states' rights. So if you like the way Nevada does it, but you don't like the way Arizona does it, or vice versa, or whatever the states are, those states have the right within a certain guideline to set up elections. Civil and criminal law. So again, setting the speed limits. What is going to be the difference between a misdemeanor and a felony? Maybe for robbery or certain, value amount, how things are charged. On minimum sentencing. So every state does have some differences of how they charge crimes and what sort of sentences or protocol that they would do. Now, there's generally speaking, like if you murder somebody, you're going to jail, right? If not for several decades, the rest of your life. So there's like some commonalities in the way they do it, but there might be some variations where some states, if you commit murder, would require life in prison. Others might be a minimum of 20 years, and then you would be eligible for parole. So again, there's some state autonomy where they can kind of change their policies, and sometimes it changes. Some states have the death penalty, some don't. So again, there's some autonomy in how they carry out their criminal justice system or how they try crimes, okay? And then regulating of trade within the state. So the federal government regulates trade with other countries. We are responsible for regulating trade between states. So we can choose if we are in Nevada, if we need strawberries, we can decide if we want to get them from California or if we need to contact federally to maybe get them from Mexico, depending on the season. So states do have some control over where they are seeking products. All right, give me a thumbs up if you have that. And we're going to wrap up for the day. So we got one done, which is, what is the key question? Who has the power? And the reality is both have power. Delegated is federal, concurrent means both, reserved means the states. Means whatever the federal government does, then it is reserved for the states, okay? And this is a good priority list. It's going to be really helpful also on your quiz because there might be some questions, your Module 1 assessment quiz, because there might be some questions of what are delegated powers? What's an example of reserved power? So remember, delegated is constitution, means federal. Reserved means state. Okay? All right, let's wrap things up. So we looked at the compelling question. We looked at delegated versus states versus concurrent. So delegated is federal. Delegated is states. Okay. No, my goodness. I'm sorry. Delegated is federal. Reserved is states. Concurrent is both. Okay. Concurrent is both. So I will see you, since this is period 2, I will see you on Thursday. So make sure that you saved this notebook to your government folder. Okay, so save this notebook to your government folder. Okay, so we can pick right up where we left off. All right, have a wonderful day. I'll let you go about 2 minutes early. All right, before you have to go to your next class. And then I'll see you on Thursday for our block schedule. All right, have a great day. Thank you so much.
Have a good day, Miss.